What's up, tribe? Welcome back to another conversation on how to create wealth. Now, if you're an individual who has decided that you do not want to create wealth for yourself and your family, or you don't care about creating wealth for yourself and your family, you can go ahead and click off this video right now. Otherwise, if you're an individual who has decided that you do want to create wealth for yourself and your family, or that you're at least interested in the conversation around creating wealth for yourself and your family, then stay put and listen to this. Think at a higher level. Speak, communicate, and grow rich at a higher level. In our last conversation, or in the last video that I posted, link somewhere up here, we talked about the 4 levels of value from Myron Golden's Boss Moves book. In the 4 levels of value, Myron walked us through or 4 levels in which we create our careers and professions, and that usually produces income for us. But there was only 2 of the 4 levels of value that actually creates wealth. So the first 2 that was at the most bottom level is mostly your employee level jobs. Okay, so we talked about implementation and unification. These are your educators, these are your custodians, these are your waitresses in a restaurant. Okay, typically they make the least amount of money but work the hardest. Or you can be in a higher level position like a manager or a supervisor, or make commission on your sales and make a pretty decent amount of money. But that in itself is not how you create wealth. You would still need to create some other income producing asset that can generate more abundance for you in order to begin to create wealth. Money and assets that you can pass down to your family for generations, or to your community for generations. So there was only 2 levels of value which could do that. And that was communication and imagination. And so the page that I flipped to today just felt like it was really important for us to hone in on this message. So that's what we're going to talk about again. Because when we think at a higher level and when we communicate at a higher level, it has the potential to produce a mass amount of money, which then we can produce a mass amount of abundance, assets, wealth, prosperity. All of those words that we want to experience happens at a communication and an imagination level. Now, let's think about some professions in which we communicate. Why? Because Myron says here that wealth begins on a communication level. So think about that for a moment. Actually, let me give you some examples, because Myron also hits us off with some examples here. Okay? He says it doesn't matter if you're an author, a speaker, a salesperson, an actor, a singer, a songwriter, or a playwright. All of these people have one thing in common: communication. They're utilizing their speech. And again, ladies and gentlemen, when we have a message to produce to a mass amount of people are willing to pay for that message. So naturally, we produce a mass amount of income. Wealth begins at a communication level. You might say, well, I'm not a singer, or I'm not a writer, or an actor. I'm going to push back on that just a little bit. If you have the ability to communicate, and you have built up, and you have a skill set and or a talent, or maybe just even an opinion, do you know that you have the potential to create wealth? You don't need to be born with the talent. And what's so wonderful is that anybody can learn a skill set through education, through training, and through experience. And then you're able to communicate that thing to other people. And what does that do? That can help people solve their problems. And if you solve someone's problem, they pay you for it. The same way you pay for people to solve your problems, whatever it may be, right? Whether it's a therapist, or whether it's the Geek Squad in Best Buy and they're fixing your laptop. You pay people to solve your problems. And the same thing happens for you. You have the same potential to do so. All you need to do is actually open your mouth, or if you're not one to get in front of an audience like I am, then guess what? Everyone in this day and age, we're in the digital age, y'all, the 5th industrial revolution. Everyone in this day and age has the capability to write. Well, I'm not a good writer. Doesn't matter. In today's day and age, we have AI. AI has oh my gosh, mind-blowing writing tools to assist anyone to get their message out, because it's not about the writing. It's about the message. It's about the value that you're able to produce and, again, help someone. And anytime we're helping someone, first of all, yes, we're able to charge them, so they have to pay us. And two, it's one of the greatest rewards to be of service to someone and for them to willingly want to take money out of their pockets or their wallets and give it to you because you helped them with something that could have been extremely painful, that could have hindered their progress and their growth, and now you have solved their issue. We do this all day, every day, y'all. Most people drink coffee, and guess what? Someone has to put the coffee in a cup. Someone has to grind the coffee. Someone has to make the coffee, and you willingly exchange your $1.50, $2, or if you go to Starbucks, your $8 for someone putting coffee in a cup and solving your morning blues, right? So stop with the limiting beliefs that you can't do a thing that is valuable to people and a mass amount of people who can begin to pay you for that thing. In any profession, communication is needed in some form of fashion, whether it's through speech, whether it's through writing, or any other way that we're able to communicate with one another. Communication is the first level of value that creates wealth. Now, the highest level of value comes from the mind. Anything that has ever been created starts in the mind, y'all. Right? So in my previous video, I mentioned that the chair that you're sitting in right now, or the ground that you're standing on right now, listening to this conversation, first originated in someone's mind before it was created and purchased. Either way, someone still had to pay for it in order for it to be in your existence right now. So inside of the book, Myron Golden brings up one of my favorite companies, which is Apple. And when you hear Apple, who do you think of when you hear Apple as the corporation? Steve Jobs, right? Steve Jobs, on a majority, is going to be the first, if not in the top 3 people, when you think about Apple, the corporation, his name is going to come up. And Steve Jobs, by the way, was the visionary, the Imagineer of Apple. His partner, Steve Wozniak, is the one who actually created the products. And this is not to say that Steve didn't make a healthy amount of money and that he wasn't prosperous and wealthy as well. But it took the visionary to drive the dream. People thought Steve Jobs was crazy, that you can actually carry your favorite music inside of your pocket that was as small as this. That wasn't the big Walkman that everybody was walking around with clipped at the side of their hip. He turned it to this small little digital thing. Digital at that, y'all. We're in a digital age. Think about it. Technology has advanced civilization so far, and it continues to do so. It's so important for us to continue to be visionaries and imaginaries in this digital age. How can we create the next new? Or how can we be a part of the community that's doing that thing, right? Even if you're not Steve Jobs, you could be the Steve Wozniak or anybody else in that corporation that helped to bring Apple to life, to its success, and ultimately to help bring the creators of their products to wealth. Imagination and communication, the 2 highest levels of value, when they go hand in hand, we literally change the world, y'all. Okay? We literally disrupt everything that we have once known for the new thing that's going to make our lives better. That's going to solve the next problem. That's going to add value. And this is a very short message, y'all, because I need you to get on this. If you are the individual who you claim to be at the beginning of this video, who wants to create wealth for yourself and your family, you have to become a better communicator. There's so many ways to communicate. So even if you're an introvert, I need you to shift your mindset to the possibilities instead of your limitations. Even if you feel like you're not the best communicator, even if you have a lisp, a stutter, camera shy, people shy, timid, don't care, there are ways to communicate and to get out the message, the value that you are uniquely built with or skilled at and communicate that thing. And then I need you to be a little bit more present internally, inside of your mind. What is going on in that imagination of yours? What is your wildest dreams? Your desires that live inside of your mind wants to be expressed. And they're already successful. They're already fulfilled. The fact that you can imagine such a thing means that it's already fulfilled and that we're all waiting for it. We just need you to communicate it, to take inspired action towards it. At least the next step. What's the next step for you in that wild dream? And you know, I had to come to this realization several times for myself of what that was. There is something that has been inside of my imagination for a few years now that I didn't realize was such a genius idea. In which Myron says here as well, that the people who come up with the best ideas are the ones who create the most wealth. And I didn't even realize that the idea that I had in my mind is an absolute brilliant idea simply because it exists there. And it hasn't been created yet, at least not to my knowledge. And even if it has, that means that there's a community for me to be a part of and to help to bring it into life, into existence for others to have value from this thing. Your imagination is not a fleeting idea. It is the next best thing to hit the market. And so with that being said, I want you to know that your community is here on this channel where we focus on creating wealth for ourselves and our family so that we could be financially free, don't have to rely on the government, on mamas, nobody else. We can simply rely on the God-given talents, skills, and experiences that's been placed and built inside of us to be expressed on the outside of us to allow us to have our greatest desires while fulfilling desires for others. Wealth starts with communication combined with imagination. You're unstoppable. Leave a comment of the gems that you took away from this conversation today. If you are inspired to the next step, leave a comment about that too. If you have questions, leave a comment. If you want to work together, I have a link down below in which we could create a discovery call and have a conversation about how to bring your ideas to life or how we could continue to work together. And if nothing else, do me a favor and subscribe and hit the notification bell if you got something out of this conversation today, because I got more where that came from. And I'll see you in the next one, tribe. Peace.